I am 26 years old and a woman. For the past 4 years, I have worked from home, building a business that most of my family did not understand. They saw me at my computer, and they assumed I was playing games. They saw my flexible hours, and they called it laziness. My father was the most vocal about it. He came from a world of hard labor and early mornings. To him, success had to look a certain way. It had to wear a suit or carry a toolbox. It could not wear sweatpants and sit in a home office. I tried to explain it to him many times. I showed him the company I built, the clients I worked with, the income one generated. He would just nod, a skeptical look on his face, and change the subject. The money, however, he understood. Or, at least, he understood what it could do for him. My success allowed me to be generous. I paid for my parents' mortgage when my father's business struggled. I funded my younger brother Mark's college education, so he could graduate without debt. I paid for family vacations they could never have afforded. I did it because I loved them, and I thought, somewhere deep down, that my generosity would eventually translate into respect. I hoped that one day, my father would look at me and see not a lazy daughter, but a capable woman who had provided for her family. That day never came. Instead, my contributions became expected. They were no longer gifts, but obligations. If I hesitated, I was selfish. If I asked for gratitude, I was arrogant. The dynamic was set, and I felt trapped in it. The worst part was the public performance. Around his friends, especially at his prestigious golf club, my father was a different man. He would boast about his wonderful children. He would talk about my brother's bright future, a future I was paying for. He would even mention my little online thing, framing it as a cute hobby that kept me busy. He never mentioned that my hobby paid for the very club membership he was so proud of. He never told them that my laziness was the reason he could afford the expensive dinners and charity events he used to build his social standing. I was his secret benefactor and his public shame. I allowed this to continue for years, telling myself that keeping the peace was worth the sting of his hypocrisy. I told myself that a fractured family was worse than a fake one. I was wrong. The peace I was keeping was not my own. It was his. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. It was a family dinner, one of my mother's mandatory weekly events designed to force a sense of unity that none of us actually felt. I was tired. I had just closed a massive deal that had required me to work across 3 different time zones for 72 straight hours. I had barely slept. But I showed up because that is what I always did. I sat at the table, trying to follow the conversation, but my mind was foggy with exhaustion. My father was talking about the upcoming charity golf tournament at his club. It was the biggest event of the year, his chance to shine in front of the local elite. He spoke about the main donor, a mysterious benefactor who funded the entire thing every year. He called the donor a titan of industry, a real pillar of the community. He had no idea he was talking about me. I had made the donation anonymously through my company, wanting to support a good cause and, admittedly, give my father something to be proud of, even if he did not know it was from me. My brother, Mark, made a joke about how I should ask that donor for a job, since I had so much free time.
I didn't respond.
I just picked at my food, too tired to even feel the insult. My mother then asked me to help her clear the table. I stood up, my body aching with fatigue, and I must have been moving slowly. My father watched me with a frown. "Look at her," he said to my mother, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Barely has the energy to lift a plate. This is what laziness does to you. No drive, no ambition." The words hit me, but I was too drained to fight back. I just wanted to go home and sleep. I reached for his plate, my movement sluggish. That was when it happened. As my hand got close, he slapped it away. Not hard, but it was not a tap. It was a sharp, stinging slap, meant to punish. "Move faster," he snapped. "You are not a guest here." The room went silent. The shock was a cold splash of water on my tired mind. He had never laid a hand on me before. Not ever. My mother gasped. Mark looked down at his lap. My father's face was set in a hard, uncompromising line, as if he believed he had done something necessary. I stood there for a moment, the back of my hand throbbing. I looked at my father, really looked at him, and I saw a man I did not know at all. He was not just dismissive or ungrateful. He was cruel. And I was done. I did not cry. I did not yell. I did not make a scene. That was what they expected. They expected drama, tears, and then a tearful reconciliation where I would apologize for being too sensitive and he would gruffly accept, and everything would go back to the way it was. I refused to play my part. I calmly pulled my hand back. I looked at my mother, whose eyes were pleading with me to let it go. I looked at my brother, who refused to meet my gaze. And then I looked back at my father, whose expression was one of defiant superiority. "You are right," I said, my voice even and quiet. "I am not a guest here." I turned around without another word. I walked to the front door, picked up my purse and my keys from a small table in the hallway. I could hear my mother start to say my name, a hesitant, questioning sound. I did not stop. I opened the door, stepped outside into the cool night air, and closed it gently behind me. I did not slam it. I did not want to give them the satisfaction of a dramatic exit. I just left. As I walked to my car, the silence I left behind felt louder than any argument ever could. I had not just left a family dinner. I had left the role I had been playing for years. The dutiful, generous, quiet daughter was gone. Someone else was in her place now, and she was going to be much less accommodating. I got in my car, and as I drove away, I did not look back. I already had a plan forming in my mind. It was time for my father to learn what my laziness was truly worth. The drive home was a blur of streetlights and silence. I did not turn on the radio. I just let the hum of the engine fill the space where my angry thoughts were swirling. The sting on my hand had faded, but the burn of humiliation was a hot coal in my chest. It was not just the slap. It was the public nature of it. It was the casual disdain. He had done it in front of my mother and brother, the two people who knew exactly how much I did for him, for all of them. And they had said nothing. Their silence was a form of agreement. It was an endorsement of his behavior. In that moment, sitting at that dinner table, I had been completely and utterly alone. When I got to my apartment, I did not turn on the lights. I walked through the darkness to my living room window and looked out at the city. The view was beautiful, a sea of twinkling lights that usually brought me a sense of peace. Tonight, it just made me feel small. I had built a successful life for myself, a life that afforded me this apartment, this view. But what was the point of it all if the people who were supposed to love me the most could only see me as a failure? What was the point of my success if it only earned me their contempt? I replayed the scene at the dinner table over and over in my mind. My father's sneer, the word lazy, the sharp, deliberate slap, my mother's wide, fearful eyes, my brother's averted gaze. Each detail was a fresh cut. For years, I had absorbed their little jabs and backhanded compliments. I had tolerated their dismissal of my career. I had funded their lifestyle, hoping to earn my place in the family through sheer utility. I had become their personal bank, and in return, I was granted a seat at the table where I was expected to sit quietly and be grateful for the scraps of affection they threw my way. The slap was not just an insult. It was a message. It told me that no matter what I achieved, no matter how much I gave, I would always be less than in his eyes. I would be the lazy daughter playing on her computer. My success was an inconvenient truth he chose to ignore, because acknowledging it would mean admitting he was wrong about me. More than that, it would mean acknowledging his dependence on me. His pride could not handle that. So he had to diminish me, to make me small so he could feel big. I finally moved away from the window and went to my home office. I sat down in the chair where I had spent thousands of hours building my business. This was my world. This was the source of the money they so eagerly took and so openly disdained. And in that moment, a cold, clear resolve settled over me. The plan that had been a vague idea in the car began to take sharp, precise form. I was not going to scream or argue. I was not going to send them angry texts or demand an apology. Words were useless with my father. He only understood power and consequences. The charity golf tournament. It was his pride and joy. For one weekend a year, He got to rub shoulders with the wealthiest people in town, pretending he was one of them. He was on the organizing committee, a position he had only secured because of the massive, anonymous donation that kept the event afloat year after year. My donation. I had started it 3 years ago. The first year, it was a modest sum. The second, much larger. This year, I had covered nearly 70% of the event's entire budget. It was a colossal amount of money. The donation had already been pledged, but the funds were not scheduled to be transferred for another week. The paperwork sat on my desk. I turned on my lamp, the soft light illuminating the folder from the charity foundation. I opened it and looked at the pledge agreement. There was a clause for withdrawal. It was straightforward. I could revoke my pledge at any time before the final transfer, for any reason. My father thought the donor was some powerful, untouchable figure. He loved to speculate about who it could be, weaving fantasies about a reclusive billionaire who appreciated the club's prestige. The irony was so thick I could have choked on it. He was building his social standing on a foundation I had provided, all while treating me like a child. I picked up my phone. It was late, but I knew the event coordinator, a man named Mr. Henderson, was a night owl. He was meticulous and dedicated, and I had his personal number from our previous correspondence. I had always communicated with him through a corporate email to maintain my anonymity, but for this, a call was necessary. My finger hovered over his name in my contact list. This was the point of no return. Once I made this call, the carefully constructed peace of my family would be shattered. But it was a false peace, a peace bought with my silence and my dignity. It was not worth preserving. I pressed the call button. It rang twice before he answered. "Henderson speaking," he said, his voice crisp and professional even at this late hour. "Mr. Henderson, this is Clara," I said, keeping my voice steady. I used my personal name, not my company's. It was time to start connecting the dots. "I'm calling about the donation for the annual charity tournament." There was a brief pause. "Of course, miss," he said. "Is there a problem with the pledge?" The paperwork seemed to be in order. "There is a change of plans," I said. "I need to withdraw the donation. Effective immediately." The silence on the other end of the line was heavy. I could almost hear him processing the information, calculating the catastrophic impact this would have on his event. The tournament was only 2 weeks away. Finding a new donor to cover such a massive shortfall would be impossible. "Withdraw," he finally said, his voice laced with disbelief. "The entire pledge? May I ask why? Has there been some issue with the foundation?" "We can, of course."
No, interrupte Jeanly.
"The foundation is wonderful. The issue is not with you or the charity. It is a personal matter. A private family issue has come up, and I am no longer in a position to make this donation. I am truly sorry for the inconvenience this will cause you." I made sure to sound apologetic. He was not the target of my anger. He was just a pawn in the game I was now forced to play. "A family issue," he repeated slowly. He was clearly trying to understand, to find some way to salvage the situation. "Miss, with all due respect, the loss of this donation will be devastating. We might have to cancel the tournament entirely. It's our biggest fundraiser of the year. The charities we support depend on it." "I understand that, Mr. Henderson," I said, and I genuinely felt a pang of guilt. "And I do not take this decision lightly. But it is final. Please send me the necessary paperwork to formalize the withdrawal. I will sign it and return it first thing in the morning." He sighed, a sound of pure defeat.
"Very well," he said.
"I will have my assistant send it over. I must say, this is a great shock. A great shock indeed." "I know," I said. "And again, I am sorry it has to be this way." We ended the call, and I leaned back in my chair, my heart pounding in my chest. It was done. The first move had been made. Now, all I had to do was wait for the ripples to reach the shore. It would not take long. My father was on the organizing committee. Mr. Henderson would have to inform them of the disaster. The news would travel fast. And my father, so proud and so oblivious, would be at the center of the explosion without ever knowing he had lit the fuse himself. I felt a grim sense of satisfaction. He wanted me to have drive and ambition. Well, he was about to see just how much drive and ambition I truly had. The next morning, I woke up feeling a strange mix of dread and empowerment. The initial rush of anger had cooled into a steely resolve. I checked my email, and just as promised, the withdrawal forms from Mr. Henderson's office were waiting for me. I printed them, signed my name with a firm, steady hand, and scanned them back. I sent the email with a simple subject line: Donation withdrawal confirmation. The digital receipt was instant. The connection was officially severed. I spent the rest of the day working, losing myself in the familiar comfort of spreadsheets and client calls. It was a strange sort of normalcy, a calm before the inevitable storm. I knew my father's routine. He would not hear the news until his afternoon meeting with the tournament committee. I imagined the scene vividly. Mr. Henderson, his face grim, announcing that their anonymous benefactor had pulled out. The panic in the room. The frantic questions. And my father, sitting there, completely unaware of his connection to the catastrophe. He would probably be the loudest one in the room, demanding to know who was responsible for this failure, puffing out his chest and trying to take charge. My phone remained silent for most of the day. It was unnerving. Part of me expected my mother to call, to try to smooth things over after I had left so abruptly. Her silence was unusual. It meant one of two things. Either she was giving me space, which was unlikely, or my father had forbidden her from contacting me, wanting to enforce his punishment through isolation. I suspected it was the latter. He expected me to come crawling back, full of apologies, begging for his forgiveness. The thought made me sick. Around 4 in the afternoon, my phone finally rang. It was not my father, as I had expected. It was my mother. I took a deep breath and answered. Hello. Clara, what did you do? She asked, her voice a frantic whisper. She sounded like she was hiding in a closet. I decided to play dumb. It was too soon to show my hand. What are you talking about, Mom? I asked, my voice calm and even. Your father just came home, she said, her words tumbling over each other. He's a mess. He's furious. Something happened at the club. The big tournament, the charity one. It's been cancelled. The main donor pulled all their money out. He's going on and on about how the club is ruined, how his reputation is ruined. I stayed silent, letting her talk. I needed to know what my father knew, or more importantly, what he did not know. He's blaming everyone, she continued. The club president, the committee, this Mr. Henderson person. He's just. I've never seen him like this. It's like his whole world is falling apart. She paused, and I could hear her take a shaky breath. Did you have something to do with this? After what happened last night? Her question was a test. She suspected me. She knew I had the means, and now I had the motive. But she could not quite believe I would do something so drastic, so destructive. Mom, why would you think I had anything to do with the golf club's donor? I asked, infusing my voice with just the right amount of innocent confusion. I'm not a member. I don't know anyone there. I was at work all day. It was not a lie. I had been at work. And technically, she did not know I knew anyone there. My dealings with Mr. Henderson had always been discreet. I don't know, she said, her voice small and uncertain. It's just the timing. You leave upset, and the next day this happens. It feels connected. I think you're overthinking it, I said gently. It sounds like a terrible coincidence. I'm sorry Dad is so upset. I made sure to sound sincere. My sympathy was for her, caught in the middle of his temper tantrum. It was not for him. She seemed to accept my answer, or at least, she did not have the energy to question it further. He wants you to call him, she said. He's demanding you come over and apologize for your behavior last night. I almost laughed. The audacity of it was breathtaking. He had slapped me, humiliated me, and now he was demanding an apology from me. I don't think that's a good idea right now, Mom, I said. We both need to cool off. I won't be apologizing for anything. I did nothing wrong. Clara, please, she begged. Just call him. You know how he gets. It will be worse if you ignore him. No, I said, my voice firm now. The time for gentleness was over. I'm not calling him. If he wants to talk to me, he knows my number. And we will not be talking about an apology. Not from me, anyway. I could hear her start to cry softly. You're just making things harder, she whispered. He's the one who made things hard, I replied. When he slapped my hand. That's when it got hard. I'm just responding to the situation he created. I have to go, Mom. I have a meeting. I ended the call before she could argue further. I felt a pang of guilt for upsetting her, but it was overshadowed by a cold fury at my father. Even now, with his precious social event in flames, his first instinct was not to reflect on his own behavior, but to double down on his tyranny. He still saw me as the disobedient child, not the powerful woman who held his world in her hands. He was about to learn a very difficult lesson, and I was going to be the one to teach it. The game had truly begun. Later that evening, I got a call from my Aunt Carol. She was my father's older sister, but they were polar opposites. Where my father was loud and arrogant, she was quiet and observant. She had always been my ally in the family, the one person who saw my worth and encouraged my ambitions. She had not been at the dinner, but I knew my mother would have called her. I heard there was some drama last night, she said, her voice calm and steady. She never beat around the bush. You could say that, I replied, a small, tired smile touching my lips. It was a relief to talk to someone who was on my side. Your mother told me what happened, she said. I'm so sorry, Clara. He had no right to do that. No right at all. Thanks, Carol, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Her validation meant more to me than she knew. It was the last straw. I can imagine, she said. So, what are you going to do? I hesitated for a moment. I trusted her completely, but I was not ready to reveal my entire plan just yet. I needed to see how things played out first. I'm just taking some space, I said. I'm not talking to him until he's ready to have a real conversation about his behavior. Good for you, she said, and I could hear the genuine approval in her voice. He's been getting away with this kind of nonsense for too long. He treats your mother like a doormat, and you like his personal ATM. It's about time someone stood up to him. Her words were like a balm on my bruised spirit. It's not just that, I said, deciding to give her a small piece of the puzzle. Something else happened today. Something big. His golf tournament got canceled. There was a pause on the line. Oh, she said, her interest clearly piqued. The big charity one? He's been talking about that for months. What happened? The main donor pulled their funding, I said, keeping my voice neutral. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head. She was smart. She knew about my financial success, probably better than anyone else in the family. The anonymous donor? She asked carefully. That's the one, I confirmed. Another pause, longer this time. Clara, she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. You didn't. I did not answer right away. I let the silence hang in the air, a tacit confession. She let out a low whistle. Oh, you did, she said, a note of awe in her voice. That was you? You were the secret benefactor, all this time. For the last 3 years, I said quietly. And he never knew, she breathed. Oh, that arrogant fool. He was bragging about this mysterious titan of industry, and it was his own daughter. The one he calls lazy. She started to laugh, a genuine, delighted sound. Oh, this is better than I could have imagined. This is poetic justice. I haven't told him yet, I said. He has no idea it's me. He's at home right now, probably punching walls, blaming everyone but himself. Let him, she said fiercely. Let him stew in it. He deserves it. This is the only way he'll ever learn, Clara. He doesn't understand words like respect or gratitude. He only understands losing things. Losing face, losing status. You've hit him where he lives. I know, I said. I feel a little guilty about the charity. They're the ones who are really losing out. Don't, she said firmly. You can make a donation to them directly, later, after this is all over. A bigger one if you want. This isn't about the charity. This is about teaching your father that his actions have consequences. You're doing the right thing. Don't you dare back down. Her support was exactly what I needed to hear. It solidified my resolve. I was not just acting out of anger. I was acting out of self-preservation. I was drawing a line that should have been drawn years ago. I won't, I promised her. I'm going to see this through to the end.
Good, she said.
You call me if you need anything. Anything at all. I've got your back. And when you finally do tell him, I want a front row seat. We talked for a little while longer, and by the time I hung up, the last of my doubts had vanished. Aunt Carol was right. This was not about revenge. It was about justice. It was about reclaiming the respect I had earned, but had never been given. My father had built his social kingdom on a foundation of my money and his hypocrisy. I had just pulled the cornerstone. Now, all I had to do was wait and watch it fall. The silence from my father was deafening. A full day had passed since my mother's frantic call, and he still had not tried to contact me directly. It was a classic power move. He was icing me out, expecting the silence and the pressure for my mother to wear me down. He believed I would be the one to break first. He had no idea that I was holding all the cards, and that his silence was only giving me more time to arrange my hand. I spent the day methodically going through my financial records. I compiled a list of every major expense I had covered for my parents and my brother over the past 4 years. The mortgage payments, the property taxes, the new car for my mother when hers died, the tuition for Mark's degree, the family vacations to Hawaii and Europe, the seed money for my father's last failed business venture, which he never paid back. The list was long, and the total at the bottom was staggering. It was a number that looked more like the budget for a small corporation than a daughter's filial support. I did not do it to be cruel. I did it for myself. I needed to see, in black and white, the full extent of their dependence on me. Each line item was a testament to my hard work and their casual acceptance of it. Each number was a reminder of why I could not back down now. This was not just about a slap on the hand. It was about a pattern of exploitation that had been going on for years, a pattern I had foolishly enabled in the hope of winning their love. Looking at the final tally, I realized that I had not been buying their love. I had been renting their tolerance. And the rent was far too high. Around noon, my brother Mark called. His tone was completely different from my mother's. Where she had been panicked, he was sullen and accusatory. "What is your problem?" he asked, without even a hello. "That's a nice way to greet your sister," I said, my voice cool and detached. "Don't play games with me, Clara," he snapped. "Mom told me you left dinner in a huff. Now Dad is going crazy about some golf thing. You need to fix this." "Fix this?" I repeated, my disbelief growing. "What, exactly, do you think I need to fix, Mark?" "You need to apologize to Dad," he said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "You were rude, and you embarrassed him. You know how he is. Just say you're sorry, so everything can go back to normal." Go back to normal. The words echoed in my head. Normal was me paying for his education while he mocked my career. Normal was me funding their lifestyle while my father called me lazy. Normal was me swallowing my pride and my pain to keep a fragile peace that only benefited them. "Normal is over, Mark," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. And for the record, I was not the one who was rude.
"Dad slapped me."
Or, did you forget that part? He was silent for a moment. "He just tapped your hand," he mumbled, his voice defensive. "You're overreacting. You're always so dramatic." "He slapped me," I repeated, enunciating each word clearly. "In front of you and Mom. And neither of you said a word. So you don't get to call me and tell me how to feel or what to do. You lost that right when you sat there and watched it happen." "I didn't want to get in the middle of it," he said, sounding like a petulant child. "It's between you and him." "It stopped being between me and him when he did it in front of the family," I shot back. "Your silence was a choice. You chose his side. So now you can live with the consequences of that choice. Don't call me again to tell me to apologize." "What consequences?" he scoffed. "You think giving him the silent treatment is going to do anything?" He's just going to get angrier, and Mom is going to be miserable. You're being selfish. Oh, I'm being selfish? I asked, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. I paid for every single one of your college textbooks, Mark. I paid your tuition so you wouldn't have to work a part-time job. I paid for the car you drive. Has it ever once occurred to you to wonder where that money came from? It came from the lazy sister who sits at her computer all day. So don't you dare talk to me about being selfish. He was stunned into silence. I had never thrown my financial contributions in his face before. It was a line I had never wanted to cross, but they had pushed me over it. This has nothing to do with that, he finally stammered. It has everything to do with that, I said. You have all been happy to take my money, but you refuse to give me even a basic level of respect. That arrangement is now officially over. So, like I said, normal is over. I hung up the phone before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but I felt a sense of release. The truth was out. At least a part of it. The conversation with Mark had clarified something for me. They saw me as a utility, not a person. My feelings were an inconvenience, my success was a tool for them to use, and my pain was just me being dramatic. They did not see the connection between my work and their comfort. It was time to make that connection impossible to ignore. The final piece I needed was to ensure the narrative was controlled by me, not by my father's blustering and lies. I called Mr. Henderson back. Mr. Henderson, I said when he answered. It's Clara again. I have a small request. Miss anything, he said, his voice still sounding weary. Although I'm not sure what more I can do for you, or you for me. It's about the reason for the withdrawal, I said. I know I told you it was a personal family matter. That is still true. However, it's possible that a member of your committee, my father, may contact you. He is not aware that I was the donor. Your father, he asked, his voice sharp with surprise. Your father is on the committee? Yes, I said.
He is.
And he is at the center of the family issue I mentioned. If he calls you, he will likely be very demanding. He may try to get the name of the donor from you. I am still asking you to maintain my anonymity for now.
Do not tell him it was me.
I see, Mr. Henderson said slowly. The pieces were clearly clicking into place for him. I will of course respect your privacy. But may I ask, what should I tell him? You can tell him that the donor withdrew their funds due to a profound personal disappointment with the behavior of a key member of the community associated with the club, I said, choosing my words very carefully. You can say that the donor felt that this individual's actions were not in line with the spirit of the charity, and therefore, they could no longer in good conscience support the event. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I had just handed him the perfect corporate, non-committal explanation. It was vague enough to protect me, but specific enough to point a giant, flashing arrow directly at my father's behavior, even if he did not understand it yet. It would drive him mad with curiosity and suspicion. That is a very specific message, Mr. Henderson finally said. It is, I agreed. And I would appreciate it if you would deliver it exactly as I've stated, should the need arise. Consider it done, miss, he said, a new note of respect in his voice. He was no longer just dealing with a fickle donor. He understood now that there was a deeper game being played. And for what it's worth, I am very sorry for whatever personal disappointment you have experienced. Thank you, Mr. Henderson, I said. I appreciate that. I hung up the phone, feeling a sense of grim satisfaction. I had laid the trap. I had baited it with vague, corporate-sounding language that would be utterly infuriating to my father. He would hear that message and he would know, on some level, that it was about him. But he would not know how.
He would not know why.
And the club calling him, of all people, to discuss their top donor would make no sense. The mystery would eat him alive. All that was left was for him to make the final, predictable move. He had to call me. And when he did, I would be ready. The call came 2 days after the slap. 2 days of suffocating silence from him, and 2 days of me preparing for this exact moment. I was sitting at my desk, looking over the spreadsheet of my family's expenses, when my phone buzzed with his name. I let it ring 3 times, a small act of defiance, before I answered. Hello, I said, my voice deliberately neutral. Clara, he barked, no preamble, no greeting. His voice was a raw nerve of frustration and rage. What is going on? I'm not sure what you mean, I said calmly. I'm working. Don't play dumb with me, he snarled. The golf club. The tournament. It's a disaster. And the club president, Henderson, he called me. He called me personally. I remained silent, letting him vent. This was exactly what I had wanted. He was talking in circles, my father continued, his voice rising with every word. Something about the top donor pulling out because they were disappointed with someone's behavior. Someone at the club. And he's asking me if I know anything about it. Why would he call me? It makes no sense. I could picture him perfectly, pacing his living room, his face red with anger, completely bewildered by a situation he had created. That does sound strange, I said, my voice still even. Why would he call you? That's what I'm asking you, he shouted. This all started after you, through your little tantrum at dinner. You did something, didn't you? You're trying to sabotage me. The accusation was so predictable, yet it still stung. He could not imagine me as powerful, only as petty. He could not see me as the donor, only as a saboteur. Dad, I said, and now I let a little bit of the coldness I was feeling seep into my voice. What could I possibly do to sabotage your golf tournament? I'm not a member. I don't know any of the big donors. You've always made it very clear that I am not a part of that world. Your world. My words hit their mark. He was silent for a moment. I had used his own elitism against him. I don't know what you did, he said, his voice lower now, but still laced with suspicion. But the timing is too perfect. You're angry at me, and suddenly the most important event of my year falls apart. You expect me to believe that's a coincidence. I don't expect you to believe anything, I said. But I will tell you this. I am angry at you. You have no idea how angry I am. You treated me with contempt and disrespect. You humiliated me in front of my own family, and you have not even attempted to apologize. Instead, you call me 2 days later, shouting and making wild accusations. You want an apology? He scoffed. For what? For trying to instill some discipline in my lazy daughter? You should be thanking me. The word lazy was the spark on the gasoline. The calm I had been carefully maintaining vanished, replaced by a white-hot anger. This is when I switch. This is the moment things change. Lazy, I say, and my voice is different now. It is sharp and hard and full of something he has never heard from me before. You really want to talk about lazy, Dad? Let's talk about it. Who's been paying your mortgage for the last 2 years? Who paid for Mark's entire college education? Who pays for the club membership that you are so desperate to protect? He is stunned into silence. He did not expect this. He expected me to crumble, to cry, to beg for his approval. He never expected me to fight back with facts. That money, I continue, my voice rising, the money you so happily spend, the money that funds your entire lifestyle, it comes from me. From my little online thing, from the lazy daughter who you think does nothing all day. I am the reason you can play golf and pretend to be a big shot. I am the reason you are not bankrupt. You watch your tone, he sputters, but there is no force behind it. There is only shock. No, I say, you listen to me. For years, I have done everything for this family. I have given you everything I have. And in return, you have given me nothing but criticism and scorn. You slapped me, Dad. You slapped me because I was too tired to clear the table after working for 3 days straight to close a deal that will probably pay for your next vacation. And now you have the nerve to demand an apology from me and accuse me of sabotage. This is not about money, he says weakly, trying to regain control. It is always about money with you, I shoot back. Status, appearances, money. That's all you care about.
You don't care about me.
You only care about what I can provide. And now, you're starting to realize what happens when the provider gets tired of being treated like dirt. What are you talking about? He asks, and for the first time, I hear a note of genuine fear in his voice.
He is starting to understand.
He is starting to connect the dots. The golf tournament, I say, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous level. You want to know why Mr. Henderson called you? You want to know why your top donor pulled out? It's because he was trying to give you a hint, a warning. He was trying to tell you that the person whose money you were counting on was disappointed in you. He is completely silent now. I can hear him breathing on the other end of the line. The donor, Dad, I say, delivering the final blow. The mysterious, powerful benefactor you've been bragging about for 3 years. The one who funded your entire social life. That was me. It was always me. The silence that follows is the most satisfying sound I have ever heard. It is the sound of a man's entire world being turned upside down. It is the sound of his arrogance and his hypocrisy crashing down around him. I can picture his face, the dawning horror, the utter disbelief. He had built his castle on my back, and I had just stood up. You're lying, he finally whispers, his voice hoarse. It is not an accusation. It is a plea. He is begging for it to be a lie. Am I? I ask. Why don't you call Mr. Henderson back? Ask him. Ask him who the donor was. He has my permission to tell you the truth now. Go ahead, Dad. I'll wait. I stay on the line, listening to his ragged breathing. He does not say another word. He just hangs up. The call ends, and I am left in the quiet of my office. My heart is hammering against my ribs. My hands are shaking again, but this time, it is not from anger. It is from adrenaline. It is from the terrifying, exhilarating feeling of finally taking back my power. The trap was sprung. The truth was out. And nothing would ever be the same again. The minutes after I hung up the phone felt like hours. I sat at my desk, staring at the blank screen of my computer, my mind racing. What would he do? Would he call Mr. Henderson? Or would his pride be too great? Would he call me back, screaming and denying? Or would he retreat into a wounded silence? I had played my most powerful card, and now I had no choice but to wait and see where the pieces fell. My phone rang again about 15 minutes later. It was not him. It was Aunt Carol. He called you, didn't he? She asked, her voice crackling with anticipation. He did, I said, my own voice still a little shaky. How did you know? Your mother called me. Crying her eyes out, she explained. She said he came into the kitchen looking like he'd seen a ghost, grabbed his car keys, and stormed out of the house without a word. She's a wreck. She thinks he's going to do something crazy. He's probably on his way to the golf club, I guessed. He's going to confront Mr. Henderson. He needs to hear it from someone else. He won't believe it coming from me. The poor fool, Carol said, though there was no sympathy in her tone. He's about to get the shock of his life. So you told him? Everything. I told him. I confirmed. I told him I was the donor. I told him to call Henderson and ask for himself. He hung up on me. Good, she said with satisfaction. Let him go and make a fool of himself. Let him hear from a stranger how he has been living a lie. This is exactly what he needs. A public humiliation. It doesn't feel as good as I thought it would. I admit it. A wave of exhaustion washing over me. I just feel empty. That's the adrenaline wearing off, honey, she said gently. You just stood up to a bully you've been dealing with your whole life. It's draining.
But you listened to me.
You did the right thing. You are strong, and you are powerful, and you have just reminded him of that fact in a way he will never, ever forget. Her words were a comfort, a small anchor in the storm I had unleashed. We stayed on the phone for a while, her calm presence helping to ground me. As we were talking, an email notification popped up on my screen. It was from Mr. Henderson. The subject line was simple, urgent. Carol, I have to go, I said. I think something just happened. I opened the email. It was brief and to the point. Miss, your father just left my office. The conversation was difficult. He knows the truth. He has requested a meeting with you. He suggested tomorrow morning at the club. He said he would not leave until I conveyed this message to you. Please let me know how you wish to proceed. I am at your disposal.
Regarde, H. Henderson.
So he had done it. He had gone straight to the source and had his world confirmed to be a lie. And now he wanted a meeting. Not at his house, not at my apartment, but at the club. His territory. The scene of his social triumphs, which was now the scene of his greatest humiliation. It was a power play, a last-ditch effort to control the narrative, to have this confrontation on his own terms. I thought about it for a moment. Refusing to meet him there might seem weak, but going there alone felt like walking into an ambush. I needed an ally. I called Carol back immediately.
He wants to meet, I said.
Tomorrow morning. At the club. Of course he does, she snorted. He wants his home field advantage. He wants to have you in his world, where he feels like he's in charge. I know, I said. And I'm not going alone. Will you come with me? I wouldn't miss it for the world, she said without a moment's hesitation. What time? We arranged the details. I felt a surge of strength knowing she would be by my side. This would not be a private family argument that he could twist and deny later. This would be a confrontation with a witness. The next morning, I dressed carefully. I did not wear a power suit or anything overtly corporate. I chose a simple, elegant dress. I wanted to look calm, confident, and completely unbothered. I was not there to fight. I was there to state my terms. Aunt Carol picked me up, and we drove to the club in silence. As we pulled into the parking lot, I could see my father's car parked near the entrance. My stomach clenched with nerves, but I took a deep breath and pushed the feeling down. I had come this far. I would not falter now. We walked into the clubhouse. It was quiet, being a weekday morning. My father was sitting at a table in the corner of the formal dining room, which was empty except for us. He was staring out the window at the pristine golf course. He looked smaller than I had ever seen him, shrunken and deflated. My mother was sitting next to him, her face pale and her eyes red from crying. Mark was there too, looking uncomfortable and out of place. He would not meet my eyes. My father turned as we approached the table. His face was a mask of conflicting emotions. There was anger there, yes, but underneath it I saw shame. And for the first time in my life, I saw fear. He was afraid of me. You came, he said, his voice raspy. You requested a meeting, I replied coolly. I sat down opposite him. Carol sat beside me, her presence a silent statement of support. What is she doing here? My father demanded, nodding his head towards Carol. She's my sister, Carol answered for herself, her voice sharp as glass. And she's here to make sure you don't try to bully your daughter into submission. I'm here as a witness. My father flinched, but he did not argue. He knew he had lost that battle before it had even begun. There was a long, awkward silence. My mother kept dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Mark was fidgeting with a sugar packet. My father just stared at me, his jaw working. Is it true? He finally asked, his voice barely a whisper. Everything? The donations. For 3 years. Yes, I said simply. There was no need for anything else. He closed his eyes, a pained expression on his face. Why? He asked. Why would you do that? And why would you hide it from me? This is the moment. The final confrontation. I look at him, at this man who has caused me so much pain, and I feel a strange sense of calm. The anger is gone, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. I did it because I loved you, I say, and my voice is steady. I did it because I wanted you to be proud. I wanted you to have the things you valued. I thought that if I could give you this status, this place in the community, that you would finally see me, that you would respect me. I pause, letting the words sink in. And I hid it. I continue, because I knew, deep down, that you wouldn't be able to handle it. I knew your pride wouldn't let you accept that your lazy daughter was the source of your success. I knew you would see it as a handout, not a gift. I knew it would make you feel weak. And I was right, wasn't I? He does not answer. He just stares at his hands on the table. I kept giving and you kept taking. I go on. And not once did you ever say thank you. Not for the mortgage, not for Mark's education, not for any of it. Instead, you criticized me. You belittled me. And then you slapped me. You slapped me for being tired after working to earn the very money that you live on. That was the moment I realized that nothing I could ever do would be enough for you. My success will always be a threat to your pride. So I decided to take it away. Clara, stop. My mother sobs. You're hurting him. He hurt me, I say, turning to look at her, my gaze hard. Where were you when he was hurting me? You just sat there. You told me to let it go. You told me to apologize. You have enabled his behavior for my entire life. So you don't get to tell me to stop now. My mother shrinks back, silenced by the truth in my words. I turn back to my father. The tournament is gone, I say. And that's just the beginning. As of today, all financial support from me is cut off. The mortgage payments stop. The allowance I give you and Mom stops. Mark's car insurance, his rent, all of it. It's over. You are on your own. The color drains from my father's face. Mark looks up, his eyes wide with panic. You can't do that, he says. I need that money. You should have thought of that when you were calling me selfish and dramatic. I reply without looking at him. My focus is entirely on my father. You're ruining us, my father whispers, his voice choked. No, I say. I am saving myself. You built your life on a lie. You pretended to be a self-made man, a pillar of the community, all while being bankrolled by the daughter you despised. The lie is over. Now you get to live with the truth. I stand up.
Carol stands with me.
This is what's going to happen, I say, my voice ringing with finality in the quiet room. You're going to apologize to me. A real, sincere apology. Not for the slap. For everything. For the years of disrespect, the insults, the humiliation. You are going to acknowledge what I have done for this family, and you are going to show me the respect I have earned. And if I do, he asks, his voice weak. If you do, I say, and if I believe you, then we can talk about the future. We can talk about setting up a new arrangement. One based on mutual respect, with clear boundaries. But the days of me being your silent, open wallet are over. Forever. If you refuse, then you can sell this club membership to pay your mortgage. The choice is yours. I don't wait for an answer. I turn and walk away.
Carol follows me.
I can feel their eyes on my back, but I do not turn around. I walk out of the clubhouse and into the bright morning sun, feeling lighter than I have in years. I had said everything that needed to be said. I had taken back my power, my dignity, and my future. The ball was in his court now. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain. I would never be his lazy daughter again. The fallout was immediate and messy. The car ride back to my apartment with Aunt Carol was quiet at first. I was still processing the confrontation, the look on my father's face, the stunned silence of my mother and brother. It was Carol who finally broke the silence. You were magnificent, she said, her voice filled with pride. Absolutely magnificent. You didn't raise your voice, you didn't cry. You just laid out the facts, cold and hard. He had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. I was so nervous, I admitted, my hands still trembling slightly. My heart was pounding the entire time. He couldn't tell, she assured me. All he saw was a strong, confident woman who had him completely cornered. I have waited my entire life to see someone put my brother in his place like that. Thank you. I don't know what happens now, I said, looking out the window. What if he doesn't apologize? What if his pride is more important to him? Then you'll have your answer, she said simply. You'll know that he is incapable of change, and you can move on with your life knowing you did everything you could. You'll be free of them. It might hurt, but it's a clean break. And if he does apologize, well, then you hold him to it. You don't give an inch, Clara. You set the terms, and you make sure he sticks to them. Her practical advice was exactly what I needed. She was right. I had created a situation where either outcome was a victory for me. Either I got the respect I deserved or I got the freedom I needed. The first call came a few hours later. It was my mother. She was crying, but her tone was different this time. It was not the pleading, placating tone I was used to. It was one of desperation. Clara, you have to fix this, she said. I'm not the one who broke it, Mom, I replied, my voice tired but firm. Your father. He's just sitting in his chair, staring at the wall, she said. He won't talk. He won't eat. Mark is in his room, panicking about his rent. The bank statement came today. The mortgage is due next week. We don't have the money. We don't have any of it without you. That is the reality of the situation, Mom, I said. This is what life costs. I've been shielding you all from that reality for years. But what are we supposed to do? She wailed. We'll lose the house. We'll lose everything. Dad has a choice to make, I said. The path forward is very clear. He needs to decide what is more important to him, his pride or his family's well-being. You're being cruel, she whispered. No, Mom, I said, and my voice was sad, not angry. I'm being honest. For the first time, I am being completely honest about what I need from this family. Is a little respect and a sincere apology really too much to ask for in exchange for everything I've given? She did not have an answer for that. She just cried, and I listened for a moment before I gently ended the call. I felt a pang of sympathy for her. She was trapped between a stubborn husband and a daughter who would no longer bend. But she had also made her choices. She had chosen to enable his behavior for decades. The consequences of that were now hers to bear as well. The next call was from Mark. He was a completely different person from the sullen, accusatory brother who had called me before. He was practically begging. Clara, I am so sorry, he said, the words rushing out of him. I was a jerk. I was wrong. I should have stood up for you at dinner. I was just, I don't know, scared of Dad, I guess. I'm really, really sorry. His apology felt convenient. It was motivated by the fear of his own financial situation, not by any real remorse for his actions. I appreciate the apology, Mark, I said, my voice noncommittal.
So,
are we good? He asked, a hopeful note in his voice.
Can you
help me out with the rent this month? Just until this all blows over? And there it was, the real reason for the call. No, Mark, I said. I can't.
What?
Why not? He asked, his voice cracking. I just apologize. An apology doesn't erase years of behavior, I said. You've been riding Dad's wave of disrespect for me for a long time. You've made fun of my job, you've taken my money for granted, and you've never once shown me any gratitude. This isn't just about what happened at dinner. It's about everything. You are a part of the problem. And until the root of the problem is fixed, which is Dad's attitude, then nothing changes for anyone. That's not fair, he protested. You're punishing me for what he did. I'm not punishing you, I corrected him. I am simply ending an arrangement that was not working for me. You are a grown man with a college degree that I paid for. It's time for you to stand on your own 2 feet.
Get a job.
Pay your own rent. Welcome to adulthood. I hung up, feeling a grim sense of finality. I loved my brother, but he had been coddled his entire life, first by our parents and then by me. This was a dose of reality that he desperately needed. Maybe, just maybe, it would force him to grow up. For 2 days, there was nothing but silence from my father. My mother called me a few more times, each call more desperate than the last. The mortgage deadline was looming. They had received a notice from the golf club that their membership would be suspended if their outstanding dues were not paid. The walls were closing in on them. I started to wonder if he would actually let it all burn down around him, rather than give in. His pride was a colossal thing, a mountain that had overshadowed my entire life. I honestly did not know if he was capable of moving it. Then, on the 3rd day, my doorbell rang. I was not expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole, and my heart skipped a beat. It was my father. He was standing there alone, looking tired and old. He was holding a small bouquet of flowers. They were daisies, my favorite. I had not told him that. My mother must have. I hesitated for a moment, then I opened the door. He stood there awkwardly, not meeting my eyes. He just held out the flowers. These are for you, he said, his voice quiet. I took them from him. Thank you, I said. You should come in. He followed me inside, and I led him to the living room. We sat in silence for a moment, the flowers on the coffee table between us. He finally looked at me. His eyes were red-rimmed, And for the first time, I saw a genuine, gut-wrenching sadness in them. "I am so sorry, Clara," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I am sorry. For everything." He took a deep, shaky breath. "You were right," he continued. "About all of it. I was a fool. A proud, arrogant fool. I was jealous of you. I was jealous of your success, of the fact that you built something on your own, in a world I didn't understand. It made me feel small. It made me feel like a failure. And instead of being proud of you, I tried to tear you down. I tried to make you feel small too, so I could feel bigger." Tears started to well up in his eyes. He did not brush them away.
The slap.
"There is no excuse for that," he said, his voice breaking. "It was a monstrous thing to do. I have been replaying it in my head over and over. The look on your face. I will never forgive myself for that. Ever." He looked at me, his eyes pleading. "I know I don't deserve it," he said. "But I am asking you for a second chance. Not for the money. To hell with the money. To hell with the house and the club and all of it. I am asking for a chance to be your father again. A real father. One who is proud of you, who supports you, who respects you. Because you are the most impressive person I know. And I have been a blind, stupid fool for not seeing it." I listened to his words, and I could feel the wall I had built around my heart begin to crack. This was not the grudging, forced apology I had expected. This was a broken man, stripped of his pride, laying his soul bare. This was real. I started to cry. Not loud, sobbing cries, but silent tears that streamed down my face. Tears of relief, of sadness for all the years we had lost, of hope for what could still be. He did not move to comfort me. He just sat there and let me cry, giving me the space I needed. When I finally composed myself, I looked at him. "Okay, Dad," I whispered. "Okay, we can try." The path forward was not easy. It was a slow and deliberate process of rebuilding. I did not just turn the financial tap back on. We sat down with a financial planner. I agreed to help them with the mortgage, but under a structured loan agreement. They had to sell their second car. My father had to give up his golf club membership. He got a part-time job for the first time in years. It was humbling for him, but he did it without complaint. Mark had to move into a smaller apartment with a roommate. He found a job related to his degree, and for the first time, he was truly supporting himself. Our conversations became less about what he needed from me and more about his own life, his own challenges and successes. The relationship with my father changed the most. He started asking me about my work, and he would listen with genuine interest. He would tell his friends, with real pride in his voice, about his daughter who had built her own successful company. He never mentioned the tournament or the donation again. It was a silent, unspoken acknowledgement of the lesson he had learned. The family dinners started again, but they were different. They were quieter, more respectful. The tension was gone, replaced by a fragile but genuine sense of connection. One evening, as I was helping my mother clear the table, my father came over and took a stack of plates from my hands. "I've got this," he said with a small smile. "You go sit down. You've had a long week." It was a small gesture, but it meant the world to me. It was an acknowledgement of my work, my effort, my fatigue. It was the respect I had craved for so long, given freely and without condition. I learned that respect should not have to be bought or forced. But I also learned that sometimes you have to use the only language people understand to get them to listen. I had to burn down my father's world for him to finally see me standing in the ashes. It was a painful, brutal lesson, but it was one that had saved our family. We were not perfect, but we were real now. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I was finally home.